Welcome back, warrior family. Guess we're singing about being with you.
No.
Always. We're always singing about everything. You know this, warriors. Welcome back. We are thrilled to be sharing with you an incredible episode today. We had a fantastic guest.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Drew Davis. And before Abby jumps into her recap about our chat, let me let y'all know a little bit about who Drew is. Drew Davis is a local 28 sheet metal worker, gamer, and dad. He's also an established tabletop gamer, both competitively and recreationally, and creator of the Dungeons & Dragons campaign, The Return of Terror, which will be dropping soon on YouTube. Captain and founder of the gaming group Team Drew's Basement, he's traveled around the US and internationally with the group and has filmed his gaming on YouTube, gaining a combined total of over 50,000 views over 2 videos and over 100,000 views as a team. A lover of music and a guitarist, Drew was in a band growing up called Dead Society that played the Warped Tour, in addition to countless shows with some of his favorite bands. Along with gaming, Drew mostly enjoys spending his days with his beautiful wife, his always happy son, and his wild and crazy dog. All right. So before we hear a little bit about this chat, there's just a quick content disclaimer that I want to give all of our warrior listeners. This episode contains discussion surrounding suicide attempts, suicidal ideation, and thoughts. All right. So Abby, share with us a little bit about this convo.
Yeah, this episode was so enjoyable. You know Drew, but this was my first time ever meeting him, and it was just so enjoyable to connect with him. And you know, I will say, like, for probably the first like 5-10 minutes of the conversation, I just like had chills the entire time. I just really appreciated him sharing his story and just being really authentic and vulnerable with us. And so, you know, he starts off with sharing how, you know, in second grade is when he transferred to another school and he started to get bullied. And it went all the way to 12th grade. And a lot of it started out as an emotional bullying, just picking on him for even the most weirdest stuff, like that he was tall. But it became physical in middle school and high school. And, you know, this caused a lot of anxiety for him. One, it caused him to not want to go to school ever. And then also, too, it caused him to just be so afraid of ever making a mistake. You know, he shared about how one time he like dropped books in the hallway and then he was teased for the rest of the week. And so all of this anxiety led to him starting to have panic attacks in high school, but it also led to him having negative self-talk where he felt worthless. And he had a lot of self-doubt and insecurity. And yet, you know, the message that he was getting was be a man, let this stuff slide off of you. And so he never felt like he could share this bullying with anyone and how it was impacting him. What is so common with so many of our anxiety warriors is how on the outside, you know, no one really knew he was feeling this way. He shares this beautiful moment where things really kind of shifted for him that involves Margot's husband. And I won't say more than that. So it's definitely worth listening to. And now he's able to look at all of that as shaping him into the human that he is now, but he sees it in a positive way. And he sees his journey as a way that led him to not only be a warrior for himself, but also be a warrior for his son and for anyone else that is going through these challenges. It was just, an amazing, he's just so like amazing, like just what he's sharing and how vulnerable he was. And, you know, honestly, how resilient and strong he is to be able to hold all that and just come off as such an empathetic, loving, caring, supportive human being.
Yeah, this was a very powerful conversation filled with so many just important moments, so many things that we know all of you warrior listeners are going to absolutely love and learn from. So here he is. Welcome back, warrior family.
Yay!
Anxiety Warriors podcast. We are on with a very, very special guest, Drew Davis. Drew, welcome to the show.
What up? What up?
Woo! We are excited to have you. I've known you for so many years, and only kind of recently have we been like chatting about this kind of stuff. So I'm so excited to dive into anxiety stuff with you. I know our guests are going to love hearing your story. So why don't we just jump right in and start there? Tell us a little bit about how anxiety shows up in your life or how it showed up.
Well, I mean, to kind of go back to how it all first really manifested, I think you and I, like you said, we just started talking about this stuff that really my entire school career, I would say from like second grade when I moved to Seaford, from then all the way up till high school. I mean, I was verbally bullied every day in school from sixth to eighth grade. There was like a lot of physical stuff with bullying. And that led up to, ninth through 12th grade where it was just mayhem. It was just a free for all, but the dumbest things where they'd be like, Drew, your mom's fat. And I'd be like, what? But deep down, that would just irk me. Like, why would you say that? What's the point? And it's just crazy because I went through that literally, I would say almost every day. Like there wasn't a day that some jerk missed. Hey man, you got fatter. Hey man, you're tall. It's like, what am I being made fun of here for?
Yeah.
But as a elementary school kid, middle school kid, teenager, that stuff is like, oh my God, he hit me right to the core. So I would have anxiety just waking up and getting ready for school, where I'd get out of bed and be like, yeah, I really don't want to go today. This kind of sucks. And I think because of that, it really made it where I dreaded going to school. I dreaded sitting through class. One thing would happen where maybe, I don't know, let's say I dropped something in school, in class. For the rest of the week, that's all I got harped on about. Oh, Davis dropped all his books in the hallway, for the whole week. And it's just being told you're worthless every day, you're fat, you're too tall, you're ugly, you're dumb. Just like every day in and day out for like 10 years. It was tough getting going and tough getting up in the morning. And, it definitely has caused a lot of issues into today, which, we'll cover later, but it definitely then it manifested in a way of just, I had a lot of self-doubt, self-esteem issues. I had a lot of self-worth issues.
Yeah.
That lasted a real long time. And I mean, it got to a point where is like, I think I spoke to Margot briefly about this one day when we were just hanging out, when we were just over the phone recently talking, where like, by like 12th grade, I was like, I'm not planning for college. I'm not planning for anything else. Like, this is stupid. I'm worthless. I feel like such a piece of garbage. I am dumb. I am fat. I am tall, which by the way, is still really bizarre.
Ridiculous. I'm sorry, I chuckled, but it's like, I am tall.
No, like I'm laughing at it too, because it's like, hey, Davis, you're tall. And like now as an adult, I'm like, why did that even hurt my feelings? Like, I'm shelf without a problem. I don't see what the problem is here. Like, that's not an insult. So it's just crazy. And I think that what really made it the worst was sixth grade started with the physical bullying. I mean, I've always been a big guy, so like there was never, no swirlies. There was no stuffing me in lockers. Like that was physically impossible. It would take like 10 guys to flip me over. But I remember specifically, it was either end of seventh grade or beginning of eighth grade. Me and one of my close friends at the time, we were just walking out at lunch, and we got surrounded by 14 kids, and they all came at us, and we fought off 14. Now I'm not bragging. I'm not exaggerating. We took on 14 kids and we came out on top, which was unreal. But he was also a big guy, my friend Justin. And we just, like, at that point, I think was the turning point for me where I was like, I just don't know what to do anymore. Like, it's at the point where they're actually physically attacking us and like surrounding us, murdering us. Like, what's next? Okay, 14 didn't work. What's 20?
Yeah.
Is 24 next? Is 30 next? Like, when does it stop? It's crazy because like that does a lot to you as a kid, where you're like, there must be something wrong with these kids are picking on me and attacking me and physically bullying me. And at that time too, something that was really, I mean, I guess a lot of kids go through like with siblings, but me and my brother weren't friends at that point either. Actually, well, I liked my brother. He didn't like me. And I think up until he graduated high school, we weren't close at all. After he graduated high school and partly into college is when we finally started talking.
Yeah.
So like I didn't even have him to turn to. He didn't defend me. He didn't care. He was just like, oh, that's my brother. He's annoying anyway. Go away. You know, it sucked. But but that's how things started, and then that progressed into by that senior year they started doing I bought a 87 Blazer for $1,000. Had rust spots, but it didn't run. Me and my dad rebuilt the engine, so I had a car. They put a fire extinguisher in it and let the whole canister go in it. So I had to clean it out by hand. It took about 6 hours to clean. They came by with a bat and smashed the light post that was on my property and like ran away, and I caught them. And this all started to come to a head when, after that had happened, within the next week, one of the kids who I know was involved came into where I was working at the time, TGI Fridays. I was a waiter. And one of the kids and his family sat in my section. And I pulled him away from his family. I said, hey, man, can I talk to you for a second? He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. You know, like acting all nice. Pulled him in the back. I said, you guys got it. I said, you win. I'm done. I said, I don't know what you want from me at this point. I said, I've got nothing left in the tank. I said, you guys win. All right. I'm stupid. I'm ugly. I'm worthless. I don't know what to tell you. Like, stop breaking my parents' stuff now, you know, stop messing with my car. I know it's not a nice car, but I paid for it out of my own money. I've been working since I was 14. I rebuilt it with my dad, which is one of the most hilarious times I'll ever have with my dad. Just a good time. And like, you know, they were damaging that now. And then, you know, I bought a new stereo for it that had to get replaced because it was covered in the fire extinguisher smoke. And it's just, as I got older and older, all that started to build up. I just felt worthless. So I think there was a good, 2.5 years. I didn't date because I didn't have I don't know if it was the courage or self-worth, but I was like, they won't go out with me.
Right.
Why ask them? They're too pretty for me. There's stupid things like that I don't really say they're stupid. They're valid feelings when that's what your life is. But now that I'm older, I'm like, I was such a dope. I should have just ignored it all and kept going. But, you know, as a kid, how do you really say all that?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And I mean, like the first thing that you're saying is like words matter and have power, even as little kids. And as little kids, like now you can laugh, right? That they called you tall, right? Like,
So bizarre.
But it was an insult back then, and it was targeting you, and it was like just finding all these ways to, I don't know, for them to feel superior to you. I don't even know. I don't even want to like put ideas on them. But you know, my first question is like, did you tell anyone? Did you tell the grown-ups? Did you tell teachers? Did you tell your parents? And if you did, how did they handle it?
So that's where this story gets worse. Is I would occasionally tell my parents some light things.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, you know, being a man, the expectation was, you know, oh, you have emotions, push them down, you know, don't react, feel anything. And so I didn't tell anybody. I was afraid of being called weak or, you know, female genitalia word, you know,
Mm-hmm.
get vulgar on here, but you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't want to be cold, and not to sound terrible, but like the minute I started to tell someone about that, you know, they would say things like, oh, what are you, gay? And like, how, which by the way is a mind-blowing insult too, because that's not an insult. But it's just like, that's the reception that you got. I mean, it sounds crazy now that I think about it, because it's not that far in the past, but it really is. Like,
Mhm.
time back then, even then, like the 90s, it was like, you're a man, you're expected to be a man. Oh, you're a teen boy, you're expected to be a man. You know, they're making fun of you, hit them back harder. It's like,
So you know, it sounds like there was a lot of lack of support just generally. And Abby and I have spoken so often about what it was like growing up in the 80s and 90s, not just, you know, certainly at home, but in school, just what the world was like, what was acceptable to say, what was never acceptable to say, but somehow was accepted, right? It's like some of those slurs that you mentioned before, regardless of how they were used in you knew that they were being used in a derogatory way, regardless of whether or not what they were saying. Like, you know, it's always so funny to me when like people want to use the word like pussy or whatever as like, that's a negative thing. right? It's like, I don't know, vaginas are pretty fucking strong. I just want to say that, like, it's too bad that like kids didn't learn, like, actually, that means that you are a strong mother ever.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of what I'm hearing too, Drew, is just that like some kids don't know what to feel insecure about, right? Like we're when we grow, when we're learning about ourselves, when we're learning about how we're being perceived by other people, by the world around us, we don't necessarily have any preconceived notions about what's good about us or what's bad if that's not being like, encouraged in us or told to us. So like, let's just validate that everything that you went through was extremely rough and challenging, right? We can all just like acknowledge that.
And to just, defend the whole support statement, I own a lot of that because, again, like I know that there was, back then there was the whole, you're a man attitude like we discussed. But on the same token, like I definitely put a lot of that on me because I could have said more to more people and I just never did. Like, and now that I'm older, I'm like, I should have just said something. But, again, back then it was, you got to be a man. And it's like, I don't know what that means, but okay. No emotions. Got it.
Yeah. But also like, I mean, honestly, to me, this sounds like PTSD, right? When you're waking up every single morning, afraid to go to an unsafe environment because who knows how you're going to be attacked that day, right? It gets you in constant fight or flight. And so one, you're not even really using your full, I mean, kids' brains aren't fully developed, but the full capacity that you have as a kid to make decisions about planning for the future of, maybe if I speak to the grownups, they can help me more. But also, maybe there's also that fear of like, if I speak up, what are they going to do to me? Like, it's just such a horrible situation for a kid to be in, to be bullied, because it's like they can't win no matter what. And then even as a grown-up, you have to take your own responsibility for it, which is kind of fucking bullshit. Like, it's great. That's great. And also,
it's so silly.
It's really like unfortunate that the grown-ups, especially the teachers in the school, didn't see it and didn't find a way to offer you support.
Well, it's funny that you said that about the whole like standing up and telling like adults after that fight with the 14 kids, because there was you can't hide that. Everybody was in the principal's office. And I remember they all got suspended and me and Justin got a day of detention each because the vice principal was like, listen, you guys got to get something or I'm going to have, a riot in here. He's like, you guys can have a day each of after school detention for a half hour. They're all going to be suspended at home for a day. So.
But where's the justice even there, right? Like, it's like the grown up was basically telling you like, hey, you didn't do anything wrong. You were in self-defense mode, but just so we don't have a riot up in here of angry, parents, we're going to make you stay after school for even 30 minutes. Like, it's just bad messaging all around. Like,
and where's the teaching?
Right.
Where's the teaching? Where's the educating the bullies on how they're harming someone? Where's the educating the people that are getting jumped on what to do next time in that situation? Like,
yeah.
Right. And then, so that one, my parents obviously got involved. And I'll never forget it. My dad took me to the kid who really started it all. My dad took me to his house because he knew his dad from like baseball and basketball and all the sports and stuff. And like they sat us both down at a table and my dad said, tell your side of the story. And I told the story. And I just remember this kid's dad was like, what's wrong with you? Like, if you really want to fight him that bad, fight him one-on-one. Come to my backyard, go to his backyard. If you really have that much aggression that you have to get it out with hands and fists, like do it somewhere one-on-one. Why are you bringing 13 other kids with you? Because he's bigger than you? Then you should be making fun of him. And like, it was a whole big thing. And then after that, that kid in particular really laid off, but his sister went after my brother and was like, your brother got my brother in trouble. So you're dead, Davis, to like my brother. My brother's like, what's happening? So now my brother who didn't like me even less. So you get someone involved, you tell somebody, things evolve, then it gets even worse. Because now someone who should be like your brother is like, dude, I can't be associated with you. You're bringing me down, man.
right.
What happened? You tell her too bad. So yeah, so like you were saying, you escalate it, but it's unbelievable that it's like you tell your parents, they talk to their parents, and then I'm still getting punished because they have shitty parents.
Yeah.
Being
Wow.
educated.
Right.
Yeah,
And
it's crazy.
the cycle continues, right?
Yeah.
The vicious cycle continues with then well, look, I mean, we'll get into, how you found so many ways to persevere, and you have your own incredible, beautiful family. You're raising a wonderful little boy who I know will be the most already is, and he'll be the most kind and loving and compassionate kid turned grown up eventually. And I can't wait to watch him grow. That's a side note. So, tell us a little bit about how anxiety shows up in your physical body, and you can speak on it from when you were younger, or bring it a little bit into the present moment as well, if some things carried over, like what happens in your mind and your body and your behaviors.
So, in terms of back then, there was definite nausea, there was headaches, there was crazy heartbeats. In high school, I actually went to the hospital twice for it.
Mm.
They just kind of ruled it as, I'm sorry, 3 times I went to the hospital for it. And all 3 times they said I was having major panic attacks where it felt like I was having a heart attack. I couldn't catch my breath. I felt dizzy. Actually, maybe it was 4 times. But one time, I don't know if you remember. No, you had graduated at this point. I think it was my senior year. I was dating Cynthia and we were all hanging out in my locker. And I had passed out and fallen right on top of her
Oh man.
and like crushed her.
She was tiny.
Yeah, she was small. I remember falling. I remember waking up, face killing me on the ground,
Mm.
crawling out from under me, and being like, "Are you okay? You just passed out." I'm like, "I don't know what happened," and it's because I didn't want to be there. I had stress.
Yeah.
Something had happened that week. I don't remember what. Oh, a kid had threatened me in the locker room, and like that gave me so much anxiety. Like, is he going to act on it? Is he going to do something? Like, I didn't even do anything to this kid. That I passed out and I wound up in the hospital multiple times, and it was just constant. Oh, she's having a panic attack. It's panic attacks. And at that time, no one recommended anything like therapy or counseling. It was just, he's having a panic attack. He'll get over it. He'll be fine. Have some tea and calm down. It's like, all right, good advice, doc.
Yeah. I feel like I'm dying. Thanks. Tea will help with that.
He's
Just
not
drink some
dead. He'll be
chamomile.
fine. But beyond that, still what carries through to today is there's still a lot of times of self-doubt and like self-worth issues that I think this year I've finally really liberated from a lot of it. And it's insane to me, like just the insane breath of fresh air it is to just go, you know what? I'm not garbage. Like I'm not dumb. I am worth something. And this year really started that because during COVID, I was with my job. I'm a local 28 sheet metal worker. I'm a draftsman. They ran out of drafting work. So they sent me to the field. I was working in the field on the front lines for about 5 months on a job where people were dying in the stairwells, literally. The entire floor got wiped out by COVID. And my boss is like, hey, don't go on the 11th floor. We're like, it's all the same elevator. What do you mean don't go near? And then, I did that for 5 months. I got to the point where I just said, you know what? I'm sick of this. I'm better than this. I deserve better than this. I shouldn't have to be on the front lines. So I called my boss. I said, hey, man, get me back in the drafting room. I'm draftsman, and I'm a good draftsman. So you should be keeping me in there. And nutshell of that happened. He brought me back in, gave me his word I wouldn't be installing in the field. 2 months later, he's like, hey, man, I got to send you back to the field. And I think for me, that was the pinpoint moment where I kind of realized what I was worth. And really, in the grand scheme of things, more than just my job, but I was like, I'm worth this because he said, you got to go to the field or you can get laid off. Those are your options. And, no one wants to hear the word you're going to get laid off because then, like, what are you going to do for work? And I remember just texting my wife and going, how's our joint account? Like, are we, if I get laid off for a few months, that, like, we'll be fine? And the thing that I remember the most and love her the most for was she responded back with, what's happening? I told her. And then she said, you do what you got to do. I back you 100%, whatever you decide. And that was awesome because that was such I'm going to go do this. And I went to his office. I said, you know what? Lay me off. And I think he was shocked by that because he was like holding it over my head, the job. And in that moment, I was like, you know what? I'm worth something. And then that same day, by coincidence, the place I apprenticed for had called me and said, hey, man, we'd really like you to come back and draft for us. We're looking for another draftsman. And I was like, right there, I was like, okay, so now someplace that I left where he was really pissed that I left called me and said, I want you back. I was like, I am worth something here. Yeah. Then 3 months after that, they laid me off because of lack. And I wound up, no joke, before I left the building and packed up my desk, I had a job somewhere else where I am now.
Wow.
Because word of who I am as a person and a draftsman, all I had to do was text a couple of people and they're like, I'll talk to my boss. I got you. And no joke, within 20 minutes, I had a job. I was like, this is insane. Because like, I don't view myself that way. And that's because of that whole school time.
Yeah.
I don't view myself as smart. I don't view myself as successful, et cetera, leading up to all this happening. And now I'm like, I guess I am pretty smart. You know, all the guys here kind of respect me. And like, it's a great feeling. And, but it's still every once in a while, like a little bit of panic attack. It'll still fill my chest. Breathing gets crazy. Sometimes I'll sweat. And there will be days where Renee will turn to me and say, is everything okay? Like, you don't look good. And that's the biggest change is now I can say to her, and I can go, no, I'm not all right. And she said, what do you need? And I said, I don't know. And that leads to, you know, one of the things that's my big savior is my hobbying and my gaming. So she knows like if I need to go downstairs and hobby for a while, it'll help me. So
yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, there's so many pieces in this. And the first thing is like, it's so powerful, like when you know, your aha moment, right? And we all get that aha moment at different times. And like, oh, wait, the thoughts I think about myself maybe aren't true. Maybe the storyline I've been telling myself my whole life, which was based on some idiots from high school, right? Maybe that story is actually not the true story. And maybe I can start seeing all of my great qualities. So like that beautiful aha moment is always so powerful, right? Like it doesn't have to be like getting slapped in the face with like, you know, a beam or a star in the sky, right? It's like no, those like little moments where you're like, oh wait, life doesn't have to be this way.
right. And it feels good to just be, you know, for once to go, hey, I'm not so bad.
Yeah, right. And it sounds like your wife offered that support where your wife was like, I trust you to make the right decision. And so then you had to like trust yourself. And then by trusting yourself and acting on trusting yourself, you saw how other things opened up. Right.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
it's like, it's just really I don't know, it's just really amazing to hear the aha moment, but also how support systems are so important in helping us with these changes too, and in shining the light on us, or supporting us in these changes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I know your wife is amazing. I know you're amazing. You know, I love these conversations so deeply because like Abby just said beautifully, being able to witness and hear from folks about what the turning point was for them is such a crucial piece for us anxiety warriors, because I think often we think, well, or people think before they have their aha moment, I'm going to be stuck in this anxiety loop forever. This is always going to be something that attacks me. And while I'm a big proponent of like, yeah, it's a part of my life. Yes, I feel it often, but I also can be armed with that support system, with the amazing tools, like you mentioned gaming, and we're going to get into that in just a couple of minutes. But I just so deeply appreciate you sharing everything. All right. So before we talk a little bit about some of your go-to strategies and things like that, you and I, when we had our chat, you had really kind of bravely shared this experience, and it happened, I believe it was like right after high school or right at the tail end of high school, of experiencing suicidal thoughts. And the story was so powerful. So I would love for you to share with everybody just like a little bit about that experience and how and why you ultimately chose to keep going.
So this is weird always. Let me figure out. So basically, you know, you get hammered like that every day in and day out, and people are like, "Oh, you just gotta, you know, let it roll off your back, like water off a duck's butt, or something like that." And you know, you just keep going. And then I remember towards the end of high school, my parents were like, "What do you want to do with your life?" I'm like, "I don't know," because I didn't know what I was going to do. To be honest, I didn't know if I was going to live. I was like, I just kind of don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to leave. I don't know if I'm going to stay. I don't know if I'm going to pursue some kind of degree. Like I had no direction whatsoever. And I just remember I was working at TGI Fridays one night, and And I was working with this girl who, like, I really thought like we had like a great connection. And I had just kind of like, we were flirting back and forth, and I was talking to her, and then things just got weird. And she was just like, I don't feel you, someone I could go out with, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, all right. And that kind of brought back some of those old feelings afterwards. And I had no direction. I was going to college for something that I didn't want to do, and I was forced to go to college because my parents said, if you don't go now, you're never going to go. You have to go right out of high school. And I'm like, no, I need time off. I need to explore. And they just said, no, you're going. And all that just kind of came together. And I was just like, man, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Like, this is stupid. This is the dumbest way to live life. And while I never exactly thought about this is what I'm going to do, or this is how I would do it, or this will leave an impact, it was always sorts of what if.
Mm.
And the night in particular I spoke to Margot about, I will never forget it. I got in my car that night because I got off a shift at like 11:30 at night. So it was dark, So I was like, I'm just going to drive down to the beach. And I had been chatting with her husband, my best friend at the time. Still my best friend, obviously, but and I was chatting with him, and then I just stopped answering his texts. That girl who I was talking to was texting me. So she's like, are you okay? Stopped answering her. I just stopped answering everybody. I just drove down to Long Beach. I remember walking out into the sand, sitting on like the lifeguard chair, looking out at the water and going, what if I just walked out and just kept going? Like, would anybody miss me? Would it matter? Which is, I mean, when I think about it now, that's some dark stuff for like a kid who's like 18, 19 years old to like even think about. Because in my opinion, at 18, 19, we're still kids. Like, we don't figure it out by any means.
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember just thinking like, this could be the night. This could be the night that I walk out there and just keep going. And I'll never forget, my phone kept ringing. It was Adam, her husband, just kept calling nonstop, texting nonstop until I picked up the phone. And he's like, what's up, man? He's like, you stopped talking to me. You said some weird shit before you left. Like, what's going on? I just remember telling him, like, I think that was the first time I ever really said anything to anybody significant. I was like, I'm just not okay, dude. Like, I don't know what to do. And I don't remember exactly what happened to that, but I'm pretty sure we could have met up at Taco Bell or something after that. And we just kind of hung out, and laughed, and talked. And like at that moment, I realized how I don't really want to offend anybody. How selfish and stupid like those thoughts were. Like, yeah, I got bullied. Yeah, it was really tough to go through for that long and to happen every day. But that just gives them a win, whether their ultimate goal, obviously. But I'm not going to give that to them. And I'm just going to, you know what? I got to find something. And that night really changed my life with a lot of stuff.
Wow.
At the point where I was really just done with everything and was ready to give up. And then just the fact that one person was like, hey, man, you're acting crazy. Why don't you not do that?
Yeah.
I like this kid. You can stay.
I married a very special man.
You sure did. And I mean, our audience can't see, but you telling the story, it puts tears in my eyes. And
Same.
it puts tears in my eyes because it just shows like all of us matter, right? And the fact that Adam felt something was off and was persistent enough until he heard from you. I don't even know like the words I want. I just know that it really touched me because it just shows how much we can make an impact on other people and just how important showing up for our people is, or showing up for people are. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I also just really want to, I don't know if it's a reflection or a question, so I'm going to kind of like talk it out and see what happens. But you're right. At 18, you're a kid, and our brains aren't even like adult brains until at a minimum of age 26. And the pressure that is put on children through high school, and what do they do after high school, and they need to figure out their lives, by the time they're 18 for when they have to go to college, is just a ridiculous amount of pressure put on children. But what I want to highlight in that is that at least when we grew up, dark thoughts, I like to call it dark thoughts, right? Because they're not always suicidal, but they are dark. They make us question stuff. They make us think thoughts that maybe make us feel uncomfortable. I don't think that they're talked about enough and normalized enough. And so when your mind starts to get consumed by them, and you don't realize that like maybe thoughts aren't true, or you don't have someone to reflect a different perspective, or you don't have someone normalizing like, yeah, I have dark thoughts too sometimes, they're really uncomfortable. We get so lost in it. And so I guess that's my reflection. I don't know if it's necessarily a question, but it's just like acknowledging like a lot of humans have dark thoughts, and it's so lonely and isolating in the dark thoughts. And I just really appreciate you sharing that piece, because I think a lot of people can relate to that and feel less alone, knowing that other people have these dark thoughts too.
Yeah, if it were talked about more often, as you just mentioned, right? People wouldn't necessarily feel so alone in their dark thoughts. So,
Yeah.
and I value both of you highlighting just, and we've said it so many times, like broken records here. It's just like a support system doesn't have to be anything other than just meet me at Taco Bell and we're just going to sit next to
Yes.
each other and eat. Like that could literally be the only thing that you might have needed. You didn't even necessarily look, I know my husband really well. He's a good listener, but it's a lot because like he's taking everything you're saying in. He doesn't always have the words to come back at you with, and sometimes that's the best thing. And I tell him that it's like sometimes just being in someone's presence, right? Who feels safe to you, who's calming, who is a constant figure, or even if you don't have somebody like that, if you can find that therapist, right? If you can advocate for talking to professionals and having them be part of your support, finding support groups for these kinds of things. I mean, there are so many endless options for people to find support. So I love that came up in your share. And I think it is very relatable. And as Abby said, it isn't necessarily just the suicidal thoughts part, but just the having of the what if, right? Because the what if can lead to a lot of that. And so imagine what would happen if more kids at that age, yes, that you were a kid, had access to that being normalized. Yeah. So I want to move on into, and we're going to get into your go-to strategies, and I can't wait for you to share with everybody about your gaming and hobbying, because I know it's such a huge part of your life. And so much of your story so far has been about perseverance and rewriting the narrative for yourself in your mind. So just like share with our listeners how you navigate this, what's your process like, and then you can let that kind of bleed into some of the ways that you cope.
Sure. Navigating it back then was like driving without a map. Like, I don't know how I got around and through a lot of that stuff. But now, specifically now as an adult, especially since I've met Renee and I kind of really started to grow up when I met her, because I definitely feel like me and my ex splitting the way we did, where she left me for someone else, and me finding the woman who I'm now married to, there was definitely in like that time frame a big change in me, like a lot of growing up. So to navigate it now, a lot of times when I get really flustered or I take a breath and I'm like, whew, okay, what's the actual problem? What's the source of the problem? And when it's something that I can expect and plan out, that makes it easier to navigate. When it's self-doubt, up until, like I said, I think it was really this year, maybe a little bit last year too, because I really started to come into my own, I really think last year, but this year solidified it, is it's going to sound so weird, I don't let anxiety in. Like, there's still self-doubt and there's still times where I get a little bit of anxiety. Like, I texted Margot today, like I was listening to the last episode you guys did. I'm like, his story is so interesting. Mine is so, and I was like freaking out. I'm like, I have anxiety because I don't know if I'm going to even put it on the radio or, stupid things like that. But I mean, now I just don't even let it affect me 95% of the time. Like, for instance, I said, I'm going to go out, I'm going to do this, like, dumb example, putting out a reel. I'm like, everybody make fun of me if I put out a reel on Instagram. No, I didn't do a dance. Don't worry. But people are going to think I'm silly. People are going to say, dude, what'd you do that for? It's so lame. But you know what? Who cares? I'm doing it. And I did it. And that's kind of how I navigate it now, is I basically look at any kind of anxiety or anxiety-based fear that I have, and I just go, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? Who cares?
Yeah.
9 years old. God willing, I live a lot of years. Let's say, I only got another 39 at best. Why am I going to waste them caring about what someone might say?
Right.
Which leads into, I met a bunch of guys gaming, which I was like, I want to do miniature gaming. I want to do Dungeons and Dragons. Like, I've always really wanted to get deep in that. And I met a bunch of guys who were like me. They're grown men with families. Some have kids, some don't, but we're all older men who just, I say older men, what are we? Me and Jack Lemmon, we got together, played some games.
It's a game, see? On the table, see? Over here.
No, but like, we all started gaming when we were like 30, in late 20s. And now, we've all grown together, and it's such not a weird thing. And now I've taken all that and I said, I'd really like to do some filming with this and put it on YouTube, or, put my Dungeons and Dragons game out there so other people can watch it. People are going to think it's stupid. But again, I now have a group called Team Drew's Basement, because we film everything in my basement, play in my basement, that now I hobby and I paint minis, and that's so soothing and relaxing. It gets my mind off of anything that happens in the day. Like those days where Renee's like, what's wrong? And I say, I don't know, I'm just not okay. Yeah. So that I'll go down the basement for 4 hours. And after we put Kay into bed or something, I'll go down for 4 hours and I'll paint minis and I'll build minis, and I'll be fine when I come upstairs. Just gets all that out. And again, we went to Canada and filmed with a group in Canada. We got my 2 videos together got over 50,000 views already, and so many great comments. People saying, get Drew back, he was great. Seeing stuff like that reinforces I'm not worthless, I'm not garbage.
Right.
I gotta admit, after starting on Instagram on this, and I won't go far into it, sorry if I'm rambling a little bit, but there's a couple people who in particular, like a guy from Jay's Tabletop on Instagram, he just builds custom terrain. I reached out to him one day and I said, hey man, that's really cool. Like, how do you do that? And that sparked me and him having conversations. There was a girl who liked my comments on one of his videos that she wound up following my team page. So I followed her page because she's I don't know the actual acronym, but she's like a pro bikini competitive model, like the fitness models. And turns out she was 15 minutes from me and loves Dungeons and Dragons.
Aww.
So she came to our group last Thursday to play a session with us. And it turns out she's great, and she's now part of the group forever, so I think that, and just finding people with like interests, is a great way to combat anxiety, because the things that you feel silly for, the things that you're worried about, other people feel the same way.
Yes.
Doing it together, you're not judging each other. And I think that is the biggest thing, is just having a big support group. Interest. That's the best way to combat it.
Right. It's finding your community, whoever your community is. Right. So there's so many like great pieces in this. The first thing I want to say is I love how you started at the beginning with like, when anxiety is like, no, don't do that. No, people will judge you. People will make comments. People will question why you do it. Right. Which I think any anxiety warrior can relate to. You're like, all right, voice, I see you. And now I'm going to do it. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I love that. That's what you're like, all right, you're telling me I shouldn't make a reel. Now I'm going to make a reel. Cause ultimately,
deal with it, me.
Who cares? Right. Like, yeah. So I really love that. Like, when you notice the resistances, when you notice those like worries or fears or anxiety thoughts bubbling up, you're like, I see you. And now I'm going to do the opposite to prove to you that I don't care, or prove you're wrong, or prove I can handle it, or whatever, right? That the second part is.
Yeah.
And I really love that you're bringing up Dungeons and Dragons. And I don't know that much about it. And so I hope I don't sound stupid.
You're fine.
But my brother-in-law is very much into Dungeons and Dragons. And I was like, okay, explain it to me, because growing up in the 80s, I feel like they made fun of it in a movie at one point. And then I always thought like, oh, Dungeons and Dragons is for dorks, which also is silly because Margot and I also consider ourselves dorks. So like, that's a different story, right? Like, why is that a bad thing? But that's a different story. So when I was asking my brother-in-law about it, he was explaining how there's problem solving in it, there's collaboration in it, there's creativity and imagination in it, there's play, and it's like sounds like all of these skills that like children could benefit from in schools, right? Like it sounds like it's fun, but also there's a lot of like practicing a variety of different life skills with other people and having fun in it. Is that kind of like how you would explain Dungeons and Dragons for people who don't know what it is?
Definitely. But the thing that you said was about children getting access to it.
Yeah.
Two of the guys in our group are actually teachers. One of them has a Dungeons and Dragons group, and another guy has a Warhammer group, which I also play. And like they're exposing the kids to this. They're exposing like it's okay to be a little weird, you know?
Yes.
To be honest, all this gaming stuff used to be so you're a nerd, you're a dork, and now so embraced. I'm like, I grew up just in the wrong time.
Yeah.
It's so true. Now it's like considered, it's nostalgic, and it, you know, I remember like as a teen, I had a lot of preconceived notions about dudes that, because again, to me, it was only dudes that we went to high school with.
Yes.
Like, oh, people playing Dungeons and Dragons. It's only for males, or that's how it was always presented. And B, like only dorky people, air quotes, did that game. And it was like, so I didn't even care to even learn about what it was, even though even then I considered myself a dork. It was like, we all put ourselves in like different dork categories back then. I feel like we need to just like broaden that, like dorks are dorks, and like you can be into anything and still be a dork, and have it be a positive thing. So I'm so glad that you said that, Abby. It's like, why was that ever a bad thing? Why is that? And Drew said this too a moment ago. It's like, it's okay to be weird. Weird people are interesting.
Yeah.
Weird people change the world. They're the ones that are out there like being creative and saying, screw my comfort zones. I'm going to have this anxiety and do it anyway. Like what you did with the reel. And
like,
I was
make a
very
reel.
proud of you. I was very proud of you. And Abby hates reels too. And so she texted me as soon as she posted her most recent one. She was like, I spent 30 minutes on this reel. Like, please go love it. I'm like, okay.
Oh, please. When I did the one, it was like an hour and a half. For me to literally just turn and look at the camera and point up at a picture that was going to 20 seconds, hour and a half.
Abby's was just of a glitter jar.
Yes, because I've done it once of me. And I was like, no, this takes way too long.
It's a lot of practice, I will say. Okay. So lots of perseverance, lots of rewriting the narrative for you over the course of your life. So like, if you could go back and speak to that young Drew from so many years ago, that like hurt child within you, what would you say to him?
So weirdly enough, I wouldn't say anything, because as much as everything sucked, and I mean, it sucked big time, all that has really made me who I am today. I know it sounds cliche to say, like, wow, everything I've experienced has made me the man I am today. But it's really like, because I was teased so much, because I was bullied so much, because I watched how people, acted around their girlfriends, it affected how I wanted to be a husband and the husband I am today. When I see how mean people were to me, and I see the things that, like, where I didn't have support and all that, has changed how I'm a father to my son. Yeah. And it's just made me, I think, a better person, a better friend to my friends, a better husband, a better father, a better dog owner, even too. I have a lot of patience for that wild and crazy dog. It gets pushed sometimes, but a lot of patience for him. And so, like, I don't know if I would give young Drew any advice or say anything to him. I think I would just stand like in the bleachers and cheer my younger self on and say, hey, man, I'm going to watch this happen, and it's going to hurt to watch, but I know you're going to get through it. I think I might have done was maybe, instead of go to the beach, go to Taco Bell with Adam first. But other than that, I mean, I don't, as much as it all stinks, I don't think I would tell myself to do anything different, because I'm at such a good place now that I don't know if I'd be the person I am today without through all that. So I really would just, well, here's advice for anyone who might be listening that might have some of those same feelings and doesn't know what to do. Cheer yourself on. Guarantee if you stick it through, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. and it gets great, and you're going to be an awesome person for surviving it, because you're going to learn how to treat others based on how you don't want to be treated.
Mm-hmm. Well, we didn't go over sparkle and shine and twinkles, but here's
Yeah.
a shit ton of sparkle
Yeah.
and shine and twinkles.
I don't know what that means,
Amazing.
but okay.
It means that we see you. We are so blown away by that answer. So beautifully said. All right. Last question before we jump into some
Lightning round.
Okay, we're gonna save that. Okay. What does I'm gonna pause. I shouldn't have done that. What does being an anxiety warrior mean to you?
Now I think it just means I'm someone that when my son gets older and he starts going through this stuff, I can be a warrior for the both of us, because I know how bad it can get. That now when he's dealing, I know I can be his support system. So that's going to be me being a warrior, is not fighting his battles for him, because he's going to have to do that on his own, because that's the only way you learn from it. But I know I can be there to catch him, how to catch him. And I know that if, God forbid you or Adam goes through something tragic, I know how to catch you guys. Not saying that you will, and God willing you don't. I'm
knocking all the wood over here.
but knock every piece of wood. Just in general, like, I know that my story is not unique, even though it's unique to me, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just hoping that people can hear this and it helps them battle whatever they're feeling. And, they realize, hey man, if this 6'2" chubby guy can do it, I can do it. Sorry, 6'3". I lied.
You are tall.
So tall. God.
He's remarkably large.
Amazing.
But that's what I think being a warrior is, just now at this point, because I don't know if this has ever been said on your podcast before, but I feel, because I have listened to a bunch of your episodes, I don't think I'm a victim of anxiety anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this past year I really kicked its ass. It's obviously not gone. It's never going to be gone. But at this point, I want to be a warrior for other people who might be going through what I went through, if that makes sense.
Yes. So well said.
Love it.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So beautiful.
All right. It is time to play. It's time for some fun. This is Abby and myself's version of Dungeons and Dragons, putting people through lightning rounds. So it's time for
lightning round.
It's so realistic.
Okay.
It's like we're transported into a new place.
Feel the warm glow of the lightning. Okay. That actually sounds not good. Let's not feel the warm glow of the lightning too well anyway. Okay.
Done.
A little crispy. Abby and I are going to go back and forth and share or ask you a fun get to know Drew type question. You do not have to answer in any real speed. You can take a pause, take a breath, think about your answer before responding. And just going to be a handful of questions, or we're just going to have some fun. Sound good?
I'm in.
Okay. Abby, do you want to go first?
No, I want you to go first.
Always wants me to go first. Okay, so I know you. All of your friends know you affectionately as Chef Drew. Sometimes, if anyone's been lucky enough to have you cook something for them, they know that they're very lucky. So, Chef Drew is a new restaurant in town. What is your signature dish?
Ooh.
That's easy. That is try-mix meatballs with fresh-made ravioli. Of course, the bread and the gabagool and the mozzarella and the soppressata and the pepperoni. Yeah.
Our very obviously Italian guest.
You need the braided semolina. Come on.
Ooh, I love semolina. Oh, now I'm hungry again.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
We're recording like after dinner time in New York time, and I'm just like, now I want like burrata and like something Italian.
Say it slower.
Ooh, say it slow. Okay. All right, Abby.
Okay. So while you are making this incredible dish, what is your go-to song to listen to or sing to?
Definitely the song Of Fury by Shadow of Intent. It is, their album just came out and it's on repeat in my car 24/7.
Can you give us a line? Because I don't know them.
No.
Yes, you can. Do it.
No, I can't.
Yes, you can. Bark into the microphone.
It's very angry music.
Is it metal?
Yeah.
It is deathcore.
Metal,
so
yeah, metal is so there are like 40 different types of metal. It's just like
no,
yeah.
my husband was in a metal band.
So is Drew and my husband.
Okay, we're gonna have to nerd out about this at some
We
point.
played Warped Tour and everything.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we'll have this will have to be a separate conversation, y'all. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let's see. I'm going to spin off a little bit of kind of what Abby said. What is, and maybe it's different, or maybe it's the same. What is your favorite or go-to music for while you're painting and hobbying?
Much different answer. Epic soundtrack music, like Lord of the Rings, things like that. Star Wars. Embarrassing enough, my wife was so gracious to buy me the Bluey soundtrack on vinyl.
On vinyl?
On vinyl. It's amazing. It's this bright blue vinyl record. It's so.
Oh my God.
But if you're not
That's
familiar,
hilarious.
look it up. Best show ever. Kids
It's a children's show. His son watches it. Oh my God. It's so funny.
I love that show.
Wow.
But now I have the soundtrack.
You have a vinyl soundtrack that you're playing it, not for Caden, but after he goes to bed, you're playing it while you hobby.
Yeah, exactly. You can't go near my vinyls yet. He's too young.
That's right. Fair enough. All right.
Love it. Okay. In the 90s, I'm assuming you've watched some TV show at some point.
Yes.
Who did you want to be? What character on TV did you want to be?
No. All right. So 2 different characters for sure. One was Fox Mulder from X-Files. X-Files. That's the only way I can explain it. The other one was, Angel.
Yes. Heck yeah. Oh my God. Who? I would have wanted to be Buffy. Yeah.
Right. Drew and I always nerd out about Buffy. We always nerd out about Buffy.
Now I have anxiety.
I'm sweating. Oh, we're all sweating. Okay.
Oh my God. I love it.
Such a good show.
Don't raise your arms. You're wearing gray.
Such a good show. Yeah. It's like Adam didn't watch that when we were teens. So Drew and I would always talk about how we both loved Buffy. I'm trying to think because I have 2 more and like I don't know if I want them both because I really want them both.
Have a 4th question.
Okay. If you had to live in one of your games, which one would you choose and why?
Definitely not my D&D game, that's for sure. I will tell you that. That's a dark world. Probably equally dark, but different. I would definitely want to live in Warhammer 40K. Because who doesn't be a massive genetically engineered space marine fighting to save humanity against aliens and robots?
Wow.
Sounds noble.
For the Emperor. No, there's no good guys in 40K.
Got it.
Humans are bad people, but
humans are always the bad ones. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, especially The Witcher.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the underlying theme of The Witcher, is that humans are always the bigger monsters than the monsters in the show.
Oh, I mean, wasn't that like Walking Dead as well?
Yeah.
I only watched like 5 seasons of that and then I gave up. But that was the thing. Humans are worse than the zombies and any monster you could ever come across.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Wow. Now I'm debating between 2 questions, but I'll go with the first one.
You can ask them both. I'm easy.
Okay. Maybe we'll do 4 each this round. So if I'm looking behind you correctly, that is Game of Thrones.
All the Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Okay. So you have to be part of a house of the Game of Thrones. Which house are you in? What is your name? Okay. You're in Stark.
Easy.
Okay. Fine. Easy. Okay. Your name?
Drew Thalion. Which is a World of Warcraft character I used to play. Don't judge me.
And what is something like you're known for in the Stark family?
The greatest code of honor. I'll never break my code of honor.
Okay. Love it.
All right. Excellent question, Abby.
Thanks.
Okay. My final question is more of just like a request, and you have to do it because it's lightning round. Do your best Alexis Rose impression.
Ew, David. Gross.
Well done.
I totally get that.
Totally. Totally.
I'm a little bit, I'm a little bit, I'm a little bit. Do you have one more, Abby?
Oh,
All right,
okay.
I'll throw in
Okay.
more. It was inspired by the previous conversation. So if you were to turn into a monster, what monster would you want to turn into?
The Lich King.
I don't know what that is. What is that? I know that word.
In the world of Warcraft, there's a character called Arthas who basically, to save his people, sacrifices everything. He puts on like his armor, which is the armor of the Lich King. He basically becomes this undead dude who commands the army. So he's basically the Night King, but way cooler.
Ah,
That's an easy way of describing that.
nice. All right.
So
yeah.
he is a monster while still human in appearance. So
Okay.
yes, that's exactly who I'd be, the Lich King, without a doubt.
Nice.
That's cool. Yeah. He sounds cool if he's cooler than the Night King.
All right, Drew. So tell everyone where they can connect with you.
You can connect with me on Instagram at team_Drews_basement. No apostrophes, no nothing, just Team Drew's Basement with the 2 underscores. The link to the YouTube channel's in the bio. There's no videos there yet. All right. Actually, I don't know when this is going to air, but our first live stream is actually going to be tomorrow night. Beers, Banters, and Brushes, where me and I host a bunch of nerds. We hobby, we drink some beers, and we talk all things nerd live.
Awesome. Will you be doing more of those in the future?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Fantastic. So people can follow you at Team Drew's Basement and catch it at some point.
Heck yeah.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. This was so much fun. Thank you so much, Drew, for being a guest on our show, sharing your heart, your story, your vulnerability with us and all of the anxiety warriors out there. We truly, truly appreciate you and are so grateful.
Yeah.
No, this was fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking about it. And deep down, I just hope that maybe someone hears this and is like, like maybe it clicks something in them.
Yes.
I'm not going to be bullied by anxiety anymore either.
Love it.
Love it. All right. So before we let you go, do you have a win of the week to share with us?
Yes. I didn't cancel on today. And that is humongous for someone like me.
Yeah.
Or like if there's something I'm even a little anxious about that I can cancel and just get out of, I'm like, I don't feel I'm real tired. I worked real late. Okay, bye. But I was like, no, screw this. I'm sticking with it. I'm going to tell the story. And whoever listens to it can judge me however they want. I don't care.
That's right.
That's right.
So glad you did. So glad you did.
Oh, I'm so glad. And I love that honesty. I think we can all relate to wanting to bail on stuff a lot and bailing on stuff a lot.
Right.
We're so glad you joined us.
Yes, absolutely.
No, this was a lot of fun.
Oh my goodness. This was so amazing. Just incredible to re-listen to.
Yeah.
I just was like smiling and I teared up again and just listening to the vulnerability and the heart of this man that I've known for so many years, just like more than half my life, really. You know, he's my husband's best friend. They met in 2nd grade, which we heard about his journey kind of started there when he moved to the town that we all grew up in. And even though we didn't, get to meet each other till middle school and didn't become friends until, towards the end of high school and college, I'm always just so floored by the people who are in our lives that have started to open up about their anxieties, like not just to us, but then bravely to the world, right? To on our platform to share with anyone, any warrior listeners out there.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the, I guess the takeaways, but it's also a question for you that I had, that I realized I wish I asked during the episode was at the very beginning, you and Drew shared how you've only just started talking about anxiety, even though you've had a long-term friendship. And so I think many of us can relate to that. Like there's an inside we don't often share with people. But then my question is like, what allowed you to connect on that level?
I guess it's this podcast. Like, honestly, I think that when I started being more literally, very literally out there with like all of this baggage and like quote unquote dirty laundry, right? Of like that dark stuff, the anxiety, the worry, the fear, the self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, the adult ADHD. I mean, just all the things. When you and I decided that like this is stuff we've been talking about for a long time. And I'm not even sure how and why. I don't remember exactly how and why you and I started talking about it years ago, but it just kind of naturally went there. And I think you had even said to me, like, you didn't spend just years talking about your anxiety with your friends or other people in your life, just like this directly.
Yeah.
And so when I think that it was just, this was the shift. It was deciding to podcast about it. It was deciding to put ourselves out there on social media. And so I think that like maybe him sort of hearing me just out there in my own vulnerability opened that space and gave permission. But, I'd have to ask him. I don't really know exactly. I do want to give credit to that though, because I do think that that's where it stemmed. Yeah. Isn't that so amazing? Right.
I love
like
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's the thing is like, how many friendships do we have where we love each other, we value each other, but there's this piece of us that we never share. And why don't
Right.
we share it? Right. And
Yes.
what shifts by sharing these other parts of ourselves? And so that was something.
Just a deeper relationship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We see more of
So
each other's humanness.
Some of my takeaways were one, the level of resilience that Drew showed throughout, right? Even from going through those intense traumatic experiences from a very young age, keeping that with him through adulthood, and the narrative that he had for himself, right? And what was being fed to him by the outside world of you're worthless, gave him nothing but like negativity and insecurity and wondering, made it really challenging to know like who actually has my back, who is my support system, who loves me. And I think so many people can relate to that. I know in some, even in some small ways, I was able to relate to at least the insecurity piece, the fear of like wondering what's somebody gonna say about the way I look today or what's happening, especially in those formative years.
Yeah. Those things really stick with you and they totally impact you. I mean, I definitely remember different teasings that happened. And a few times I don't know if I want to classify it as bullying or teasing, right? Like it was harassment in middle school and high school, but it wasn't like daily. But that stuff really, really sticks with you. And you're right. His level of strength to have that journey and decide, no, I'm going to use this as like my superpower. I'm going to use this as a way to connect with others and support others and let them be on their journey, but be their support when they need it. Like is so much strength as opposed to like being resentful and angry and, wishing bad things on the bullies, like I just really find that like such a powerful strength. That I don't think everyone has. I mean, I don't even know how I want to say that, but it's like he just like is able to move on.
Right.
That.
Yes. I think too, like, in our call when he told me about the beach story, like that was the first time I had heard it. I knew, I knew pieces of it, from back in the day when it happened. Like Adam and I had been together for over 2 decades. But at that time, right, we were really young. We were still pretty new in our relationship. And, we set a lot more boundaries, certainly with like what we divulged about what was going on with our friends' lives and stuff. So I think that I only knew a very small piece of it, very, very small. And he kept his confidence in that for, forever, and that's important. That's a beautiful thing. But I just, the guts that it takes and the importantness that it is to share what it's like to go through those extremely dark thoughts, those like, what would happen if I just walked into the water and kept walking, right? Like who would miss me? Like those types of things, as you kind of said beautifully when we were discussing it, come up for folks all the time and they aren't talked about or normalized. And that's part of the reason why we all feel so alone in it sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I do remember being in middle school and high school and having those uncomfortable, dark thoughts, right? And then like never telling anyone because of the shame or the discomfort, or are they just going to like make me see a psychiatrist or put me in a hospital, right? Like, because when people hear about dark thoughts, they're like, what is their instant reaction? Is it to companion the person and be like, you know what, I've had some dark thoughts too. I know this is like a part of humanity and being human. Or is the thing to like fix it and like send them off
sunshine
to,
it
like,
away.
yeah, exactly. Your life's not that hard, you know, like
Right.
whatever.
Just stick your chin up and keep going, right? It's
Yeah.
just like they just want to like give you the band-aid fix of just like,
Right.
I'll just say something nice in this moment so we can get past this discomfort
Right.
of talking about it.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, again, just reiterating, like, it just shows you how powerful one person can be. Right.
Mhm.
Like such a pivotal moment in his life that also just showed him like he has friends and he is loved.
Yes. Oh, I just got another full body chill just remembering it. Yeah, it was such a great moment of the episode.
So one other takeaway that I had, and I mean, I've kind of always known it, but like it clicked in a different way, is, you know, the pressure that was put on children, probably still is put on children, to quote unquote be a man. Right. And the way like that it's modeled is suppress your feelings, don't have feelings,
Right.
don't whine, don't cry. If someone hits you, hit them back. Right. And I don't know how much that is explicitly said versus just modeled, because I wasn't given the message to be a man. Right.
Right.
But I guess the takeaway is just like, are you modeling and are you explicitly saying that your child is welcome to be and express and feel and be all of themselves? Or are you teaching your child to suppress their emotions and who they are, which leads to them not like sharing parts of their life with you? Like,
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like the cages that girls and women are put into. The boys and men have the same cage. It just has different expectations and rules and priorities.
Yeah.
Right. But at the end of the day, they're all cages.
Yeah.
They're all these things that we're meant to be in and be stuck in and conform to. And if we don't, we're somehow less than.
Right.
Right. And so like, yeah, the message is terrible from a young age, I think. And I want to say that what you and I do, right, is as yoga and mindfulness teachers for all genders or for all people, is hopefully part of just flipping that script and changing the narrative around talking about mental health, talking about emotions, learning about the body, and that, you know, boys and girls are the same in terms of like so much of their genetic makeup, so much of the DNA that flows within us is not genderfied.
Right. Right.
So yeah,
we're all human.
Yeah.
We all fear rejection because it's a survival instinct to be with the community.
Yeah.
We all want to be liked. Survival instinct, right? We stay in the community. Right. We just don't talk about that, and we're separated into genders and how those genders are supposed to behave.
Well, I know that Drew is doing what he can to flip that script too, what he's as a dad, and he's a wonderful, wonderful father. It's such a joy to watch him be a dad. I think my final major takeaway, I mean, there are so many, I know we could talk about it forever, was just, and we've been touching on it right now, just the support of the community and how deeply it matters, whether it's one person, whether you slowly build your cohort of people that you can add to that support system, just that seeking community, like-minded souls, people that are open and will give you their listening ear and validate your experience, or, you know, just sit and be a comforting presence to you, right? Like how impactful that seemed to have been for him and continues to be. And the fact that he wants to, as he said, he wants to be an anxiety warrior, not just for himself, but for the benefit of his family, his son, you know, his friends and community that he's building.
Right. And I'll just like extend that takeaway to, you know, he sounds like he, you know, there was like this fear throughout a lot of his life, it sounds like, of being rejected, right? Because he was rejected by his peers. And then he shared that story about working and that girl rejected him. And that fear can really dominate a lot of our life and prevent us from reaching out to other people and connecting with them. And it sounds like he really found his community through gaming. Right. And he's able to find this close group of people. And like, I'm sure they don't sit around and talk about anxiety, but they have this human connection anyway. Right. Like this community brings him joy. It brings him connection. It brings him whatever else, play, fun, creativity. right? And just how valuable, you know, you don't always have to have like your anxiety community, you know, or your like self-help community. Like you can just have your, you know, improv community or your book reading club community or whatever it is. And this ability to connect with people doing something you love can totally shift your life too.
Oh, so good. This was such a powerful episode. I hope all of you warriors absolutely loved it as much as we did. And we thank you for being here with us this and every week. If you would like to connect, which of course we'd love for you to reach out, you can find us on Instagram. We're at Anxiety Warriors Podcast. Feel free to shoot us an email at anxietywarriorspodcast@gmail.com. Reach out for any reasons you have thoughts on the podcast, you have topic ideas for us, you think it'd be an awesome fit as a guest. Drop a line. Let's get you on the calendar. Your story is valid and important, and we'd love to help you share it. Also, we have some incredible Anxiety Warriors Podcast merch. You can grab a mug, a journal, a tote bag, hoodies, t-shirts. We have some really fun stuff over on our Threadless page. It's going to be tagged in our show notes. Also on Instagram, if you want to see what the logos look like ahead of time before heading to that link, feel free, all 80s and 90s inspired fun to show off your anxiety warrior status.
Yes.
To your loved ones, to the world. And maybe if you are an anxiety warrior support system listening and not an anxiety warrior yourself, and you want to grab something for the warrior in your life, that is always a great option. And I think I like post-holiday gifts. I don't know about you, but like, it doesn't have to be holiday time to get something cool.
No, I just like random gifts.
Right.
Just mail me shit in a random day, you know?
Yeah, right. That's when it's special. It's when it comes randomly.
Yes.
Yes. Yep. Send your warrior something random or send something to yourself as an act of love, self-care.
That's right.
And please take 2 seconds, smash that 5-star review button on Apple Podcasts. Write us a short or long review. We love them both. If you're listening on Spotify, please tap that 5-star rating so we can continue to grow our warrior family.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you all for being here.
Yes. Thank you all so much for going on this journey with us. We're so grateful y'all are here.
We love you. Till next time.